Holiday season is here, ladies and gentlemen, and so is year-end travel. It's that time of the year when everyone takes off, and that time of the year when airports become one big traffic jam. Now, in an effort to avoid the great Indian jam of 2022, you remember the pictures, the Aviation Ministry is promising a cleanup. The Union Civil Aviation Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia today held a press conference exactly a week before the craziness will hit airports. He says that passenger convenience is priority and airports being asked to clean up their act. Now, a slew of measures have been announced. Digi Yatra, for example, will be extended to 25 more airports by the end of next year. There will be more gates from where passengers can enter. And at these gates, there will be more CISF personnel available so that you can get into airports more quickly. Also, there'll be more people manning check-ins. There will be an overall increase in the number of X-ray machines as well, is what the Civil Aviation Minister is saying. Let's listen into what he said.
In the next phase, which is in calendar year 2024, we are going to take up first 14 more airports that we are adding on to Digi Yatra. And in the second phase, 11 more airports. So a total of 25 more airports in calendar year 2024. So from our current 13, that number will go up to 38 by the end of 2024. And against 85% of passengers who will be covered under Digi Yatra in the 13 airports, now close to 96% of our passengers will be covered when we cover 38 airports through Digi Yatra.
Let me go across to Jitendra Bhargava, who is joining us on the broadcast. He's someone we go to every time we want to understand an aviation story. Mr. Bhargava, thank you very much for your time here on Mirror Now. Can I ask you if you're at all impressed with the big announcements that have come in from the Aviation Ministry? They are coming, as I said, right ahead of holiday travel, when holiday travel usually will explode by the time it's 20th. And we remember the pictures that were coming to us from last year year-end. That was a big embarrassment for the Aviation Ministry. Are you at all impressed with the slew of measures that have been announced, and will it make your life and my life easier?
You know, what the Honorable Minister has laid emphasis is on his plan for 2024. He said the number of airports in 2024 will be covered by the Digi Yatra, more airports will get covered. But if you really look at it, what's there for December, January period when the traffic is at its peak? There are already 4.45 lakh people traveling per day. That's the average for the previous month, and it's likely to only increase. Now, question is, yes, Digi Yatra will help to a certain extent, but the X-ray machine that we have, it's not just the quantitative improvement that we need the qualitative improvement. Why should a passenger be asked to take out his electronic items like iPad, laptop, etc. from the bag? Because the moment you take more trays per passenger, it delays the depart. The line moves very slowly. So there has to be, like abroad, we have it very clearly, the X-ray machine notices everything and what is inside a bag. So there's no reason why the security must insist on the mobile phone, the laptop, and everything being kept separately. You know, it's basically the systemic failure that led to it last time. They had got the X-ray machine too close to the line, so you did not have more than 4 or 5 people putting in their bags in various trays at one time. Now, all these facts were corrected later, but the fact is the experience continued, lingered on, and left a bad impression of this thing. Now, what we need is, Minister's vision is right. Yes, if you go back 15 years ago, airports, we've got a world-class airport. Digi Yatra was introduced, the app was introduced. Many people have got onto it, many have not. The question is, it has to be a movement from passenger side that everybody takes care of it. Because what happens is, if you have even 5% of the people delaying the movement of line, it impacts the remaining 95%. So Minister's plans are good. What we need is efficient, meticulous implementation of these plans. And I sincerely hope the 38 airport the Minister talks about does get covered in the 2024 And over a period of time, people will realize, and it's going to keep pace with the growth in the number of passengers. Say, for example, if you had another 50,000 passengers added, what's the kind of burden on the airport? Like Minister did make a comment on more CSF personnel. Now it's CSF personnel, but trained. What they need to do is to make them go through it so the passengers don't complain of rude behavior, not being allowed, to be guided. And last year we had one good point when the whole chaos took place was a separate queue for senior citizens. Now there are a large number of senior citizens traveling, but they got to review it, whether one section was enough or that also needs to be increased. I'm sure Minister would be conscious of it because the kind of, the criticism aviation industry brings to the Minister, he would love to avoid it in an election year. He says, look, we have planned it, we are going to implement it and leave a delightful experience for the as far as passengers are concerned this year. Let's hope so. I'm optimistic about it.
All right, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Very quickly, Mr. Bhargav, before I let you go, the Aviation Ministry is saying that our commitment, you can be assured of our commitment and you can be sure that we are serious about this because wherever retail space is coming in the way of passenger convenience or movement, we are going to remove that. Now, that's a big step because that means a lot of money, them saying goodbye to a lot of money.
It's not a question of money in my view. It's the question of coordination between multiple agencies that contribute to a passenger's experience. Airports, security system. So you need to look at it. Even when you arrive at the airport, the congestion that you see in the cars that are there because people are taking the baggage, they can't move it and security people have to come and remove them. Then you get into the gate, of course, Vijay Yatra will help. Then you come on the check-in counters. Now, are the airlines going to be deploying additional staff and open additional check-in counters? Because when you have 90-95% load factor on a flight, you naturally have more passengers to handle per hour. And most airlines have added frequencies this year in comparison to what they had the previous year. So it is the basic coordination that the minister must hold these agencies responsible should they falter, because ultimately the buck stops at the minister.
And no minister, as you said, in an election year would want the embarrassment of what happened last year during year end when people showed up at airports, only they couldn't enter. It took them 40 minutes to enter. They simply couldn't check in because of the crowds and the mismanagement. Those are pictures I'm sure Jyotiraditya Scindia doesn't want repeated on television as headlines. We'll leave it there for the moment, Mr. Bhargav. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you. Quickly moving on to something that could make you hungry.